Right then, let's talk transfers. Obviously, we're going to start by talking about the defenders, because you wait all summer for a defender, like London buses, to come at once. We've been talking about it all summer, really, Paul, what Liverpool are going to do at centre-back. Ever since, really, Gerald Kwanzaa started making his way towards the exit door, the things have been on the cards. So yesterday, it felt like things really heated up. So we'll talk about both of the two centre-halves together. Let's talk first then about Marc Guehi. This is probably the least surprising of them. This name's been bandied about for a long time. Now, as reported on The Echo by your colleague Ian Doyle, Liverpool have opened talks with Crystal Palace over a deal for Marc Guehi as they look to accelerate their interest in the centre-back. There's been reporting this morning, there's nothing done with the player yet, but it's very much in club-to-club talks. But the feeling is Guehi would like to join Liverpool. So where are we up to? What are we thinking? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I wrote at some point in July, and I think I even said it on the show, that the word was that Guehi would jump at the chance to move to Liverpool. And, I think I said it in Hong Kong, actually, on a show with Dan, that it felt to me that Liverpool were just almost biding their time, knowing that they didn't necessarily have to make a move for Marc Guehi at Crystal Palace's price point, and that Palace are not necessarily a club who can absorb the loss of a player whose value is 40 million upwards, in the same way that Liverpool have done with the likes of Emre Can and Gini Wijnaldum and Roberto Firmino. These valuable assets who Liverpool prefer to get a season out of and see them go on a free. That's not necessarily a model for Palace, who don't have the luxury of European football every year, certainly Champions League money. So it was interesting listening to Steve Parish in the Mix Zone on Sunday at Wembley, and he basically admitted that Marc Guehi was for sale, as Ebere Eze is as well. So, no surprise that Liverpool have made the move. I was saying that this move would come late in the window. Still nearly 3 weeks left of the window, so it's not going down to the wire as such, but certainly Liverpool have waited and sort of saw what sort of price point Palace would be willing to drop to. And considering they rejected offers of 65 million last year for Guehi, there's talk of it being now between 30 and 40 million, which is good news for Liverpool. And it's going to be a real quality option, isn't it, in the centre-back department, because you don't have many. We know that Joe Gomez is injured. He's got that Achilles issue. He hasn't played since December in the Premier League. Was it 11 minutes, I think, against Plymouth in the FA Cup? So Liverpool desperately need a senior established centre-back, and Marc Guehi coming in at the age of 25, England international, will certainly provide that. So it's a big deal for Liverpool, and it's one who's going to improve the squad, certainly at centre back, immeasurably.
I've seen various reporting, if you can collaborate this one, mate. It's like he wanted a little bit of assurances on game time, and if he's got a chance of playing football, and apparently he's been given those, which is interesting if it's true, because Arne Slot doesn't really rotate. He isn't known to rotate. Ibu Konate didn't play rarely when he was injured or like cup games and stuff. But in a World Cup year where Marc Guehi's desperately got his eyes on starting for England in a World Cup, which he is more than capable of doing and earning that shirt. Interesting the fact that if he's going to make this move, maybe someone has given nod and a wink, and yet listen, Van Dijk's going to play, of course he is, but maybe that Konate shirt may be up for grabs, and there's something that can be done there. Yeah,
I think so. I think Konate, had by far his best season as a Liverpool player last year, but you'd still suggest that if he had real high quality competition for that place, then it's something that the manager would have to look at. So I see no reason why you can't have those two competing for the spot and sort of making your decision on form and fitness and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think he's going to be coming in immediately as a plan B or a backup or anything like that. I think he's going to be a real sort of high quality competition for a place, and he's going to have to maybe learn a little bit of a new position, because as we know, he plays on the left for Palace, and Van Dijk has that spot nailed down at Liverpool and doesn't miss many games either, does he? So don't imagine it's too much of a massive thing to learn. He's still playing centre back, but just might have to adjust to playing on the right. Yep. But it's the money that Liverpool are going to get him for is it's a steal really in this day and age. I was told yesterday that there'd been no agreement over personal terms with Guehi, and they were waiting to get the green light from Palace before they could do that in a sort of old school traditional way. The sort of idea that football fans still like to think happens with every transfer, which isn't always the case. They have sounded out his willingness to move, and it has been a bit of a thumbs up on that one, but they're yet to sort of discuss the bottom line over what he's going to earn. But I don't anticipate it being too much of an issue. So all being well, they will reach that agreement eventually with Palace, and he'll become a Liverpool player before the window closes.
Yeah, there you go. There's the latest on Marc Guehi. Let's talk about Giovanni Leoni then. Again, in the Echo yesterday, Ian Doyle, your colleague, wrote Liverpool are poised to step up their interest in teenage Parma centre-back Giovanni Leoni. Goes on to talk about, Fabrizio Romano then reported that actually there's no deal, there's no issue of a loan going back or whatever. Liverpool want him to stay. There's talk Liverpool want both of them. It isn't one or the other.
Yeah.
What's your understanding of where we're up to with this Leoni deal? And is it in a similar ballpark as the Guehi one?
Yeah, I think that this has shifted quite a lot actually in the sort of last week or so, because the feeling was as recently as last week that Inter were sort of leading the chase there, because Christian Kivu's moved to Inter after Simone Inzaghi went to Saudi Arabia and he managed them at Parma. And the idea was that, you know, he would be able to offer him senior minutes immediately, and obviously playing under his former manager, you know, a huge club in Italy, Champions League finalists. That was the feeling that Liverpool had. But yeah, it feels like they're being given real encouragement on this one, and the idea now that they are pressing ahead with it, and let's see what happens over the coming days. It's one of those that I think the Guehi transfer is sort of independent of this sort of long-term search for a young defender. We've spoken at length on this show, haven't we, about Liverpool trying to get Levi Colwill 2 years ago, trying to get Lenioro last year, and Dean Huijsen going to Real Madrid this summer. So, you know, it's this idea of bringing in a younger defender with huge potential to become a mainstay of the team has been something that Liverpool have been trying to do for a number of years now. So Leoni is the one that they've set their sights on now, and haven't seen too much of him. I've only seen the odd YouTube clip, but he looks comfortable in possession. He looks like a man mountain for the age of him. And I think he plays on that left side as well, doesn't he? So you're looking at potentially, you know, taking Van Dijk's place in 5 years or so, or whatever it may be, if he develops as Liverpool feel he can. So yeah, it's like you say, Liverpool, you know, you wait around all summer for centre-backs and then two come along at once. And I think Guehi is probably more advanced at this stage in terms of, you know, I'd hang my hat on him coming in, and we'll wait and see what happens with Leoni.
You've been saying, and you've been banging this drum all summer, like Liverpool want this young centre-half, the development project, because Virgil's had to hide down for 2 more years. Konate's contract is still something that's ongoing. There's no real sign of that going either way of yet. Joe Gomez's injury, so you need someone for the here and now. Marc Guehi, and also the future, but also Liverpool have been constantly putting this message out there, right, that they're interested in this young centre-half. Yeah. They can bring them in, get them used to the Arne Slot way, and then maybe Virgil hands the baton over in a few years' time. Yeah,
exactly that. And I think you look at the calibre of players who they have been targeting. You know, Levi Colwill sort of cemented his place at Chelsea, didn't he? And he's obviously just unfortunately had that ACL injury, but he, you know, was at a Chelsea team who, where did he finish in the end? Was it 4th? Coming off the Club World Cup, you know, just had a really good season actually when you sort of weigh it all up, and he's going to be a mainstay for Chelsea's centre-back department. Manchester United, Lenioro, okay, they're not in the sort of vintage era at the moment, are they? But still, you know, the size of that club. And then Dean Huijsen goes to Real Madrid, and, you know, he's just become a Spain international this year as well. So the sort of level that Liverpool are looking at for these young centre-backs is still very high. Obviously room to develop, because by the nature of it, they are young players and can improve, but they are looking for young players who are maybe head and shoulders above a lot of other players of their ages. So this is the sort of level they're targeting, and clearly they feel Leoni is of a similar level.
I mean, he literally is head and shoulders. He's absolutely massive. One more thing on this deal, there's more of an opinion piece where we go back to some reporting. It's a bit unusual for Liverpool. All those players you mentioned there, yes, they were young, but they all had quite a lot of experience playing first-team football. I think Leoni's played like 30-odd senior games, half of which were in either Serie B or Serie C. You know, he's played, I think, like 17 games with Parma in the top flight of Italian football. That's a bit of a move away from the norm for Liverpool to do that. You know, they usually like this big sample size and the data and stuff. So there must be something about this lad they really like, because like I say, to spend maybe around 25-30 million pounds on a lad who's played 17 top flight Italian football matches is a move away from the norm. Yeah, definitely.
It reminds me a little bit of when they bought Sepp van den Berg in 2019, in that he'd only recently broke into the PSV Zola squad, was it? Played under Jaap Stam, and obviously they felt that he was the ideal coach to teach a young Dutch defender, and brought him in, and he had interest from Bayern Munich as well. And I seem to remember a story of him, he was doing his medical, and Bayern Munich was still trying to get that deal done. It was already done and dusted. So it reminds me a little bit of that, in that, you know, he's not got bags and bags of experience in the sort of way that, like you mentioned, Dean Huijsen had just come off, you know, a full Premier League season with Bournemouth or whatever. But the price is very different to what they paid for Sepp van den Berg, which is about 2 million. So that, you know, it seems to me that Liverpool don't necessarily see him as a bit of a project, and if it doesn't work out, they can easily get the money back. It's one that they feel, if they're willing to pay, 25 million, that he is a player who has got a lot of upside and huge potential to grow and become a star in the Premier League. I seen your show yesterday with Josh Williams, and you asked him about the Italian question, and he was categorically disinterested by the history of Liverpool's Italian players. It is a bit of a slower league. We always hear that sort of stuff, don't you? But I think Liverpool's recruitment departments have probably earned the right and the trust for supporters to put aside maybe their own reservations over players coming over from the Italian league or whatever it may be, because, you know, how many duds can you count on one hand in the last 10 years? Yeah. 2 or 3 at most.
There aren't many. So just to round up then, mate, the latest on both of these is that, are we expecting both of these to happen, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly with Guehi, you know, I would be very confident of him becoming a Liverpool player. How long's a piece of string? I don't know when that might get complete. Leoni, not as confident, but certainly Liverpool have maybe nudged ahead now of Inter in that race, which was the messaging that was coming back last week. So, yeah, they are confident of both, and I'd imagine Guehi will become a player at some stage. Liverpool, I guess, you know, if there are no further injuries, they're not massively in a rush before the end of the window. But yeah, you know, I think it's just a case now of agreeing a fee, and personal terms won't be an issue, although they haven't been agreed yet.
Cool, absolutely brilliant. Next one, yeah. So let us know your thoughts in the comment section on both Guehi and Leoni. That was a clip from Journo Insight. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.